Hi my friends, and welcome back to my channel, Minimum Player Count. I'm Stephanie, and today we're taking a look at Elements of the Gods. This is by Side Room Games, and this is currently on Kickstarter. This game is for 1 to 4 players and plays around 30 to 90 minutes. So without further ado, let's get started. So what this game is about, you are a young god at the dawn of civilization, using your godly powers to manipulate the elements and gather worshippers to do your bidding. I'm going to be explaining the game in a 2-player variant first and give you exactly how to play and what the game is about. And then I will go over solo play variant rules at the end of the game so you can kind of understand what the differences are and how to play that. How you win this game is the first person to play the 5th divinity card triggers the end of the game, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. In Elements of the Gods, you are building monuments and influencing these worshippers to either be attracted to or go away from these monuments to try to manipulate them to build gardens and gain points in that way. So on your turn, you're going to select one of the elements and play them on the board. The elements will influence the worshippers around them, and I do want to cover each of the elements so you can get a better understanding of how each of these elements work. So the first element I'm going to go over is water. When you place water, it attracts one meeple of one color to that element. So around the element, you will see all the meeples, and you will choose one color to attract towards that water. The next one I'm going to explain is fire. So fire, as you would assume, would scatter meeples away. So you again select one color of meeple, and that will move the meeples one space away from the fire. The next element, wind, pushes one meeple of the same color in a grid of 3 by 3 away in one direction. So you will select the direction the wind blows. Earth. So you will use the power of earth to bring worshippers to life. So what that does is you select a space for earth to be on, and you will draw 5 meeples from the bag to place on that space. And the last one is death. Death is my favorite because it's very easy. You place death on a certain space of the board, and that murders or kills the worshippers on that space. After you have murdered all of the meeples on that space, you are allowed to collect 2 souls to save. The next action you have to do is you either play a card from your hand and do that action, or you discard a card. You discard at least 1 card from your hand if you cannot complete any of the actions that are in your hand. So the 3 types of cards that you have to draw from are the monument, the garden, and divinity cards. And the divinity have 2 subcategories, which are the ritual and smite cards. So the monument cards are for building your monuments. These are very helpful for you because you are trying to put out monuments to gain points by gardens that are adjacent to that monument. Monument cards will give you specific instructions on how you can actually play a monument on that space. So it could say you have to have these certain meeples that are either adjacent to or diagonal from the monument to place it, or it could say something about having a garden next to it, things like that on this card. The garden card is also very great because it gives you points based off of your monument. So the more gardens you have around your monuments means more points. So every garden that you have around a monument is 5 points. To play a garden card, it also has specific stipulations on the card as well, which will say what color of meeples, how many meeples that have to be either on that space or adjacent to that space for you to play that garden. The next cards, which are the most important cards in this game, are the divinity cards. The ritual cards involve monuments, gardens, and meeples on that card, but they give you points for endgame scoring. And as you know, as I've stated earlier, the first person to play 5 divinity cards triggers the end of the game. The next card I'm going to go over is the smite card. The smite card, which was my favorite when I played this game, is you are trying to smite or kill a certain amount of meeples on a space by placing that death element to gain those points. If for some reason you do not have the opportunity to play these cards At the bottom of these cards, there are the top portion, which you would use for when you're playing the game, and the bottom portion, which are end game scoring points that you can gain at the end of the game. So if you for some reason have more divinity cards and you decide I'm going to save this one because it has a specific point value that you actually value in your game, that is a very cool end game scoring mechanic that they have. Also, while you're playing the game, there are 3 divinity cards that are out on the table that also provide endgame scoring. You do have to keep in mind that those also will affect your endgame scoring as you play. The final step of the game is to draw back up to your hand limit of 5 from any deck that you choose. So you can decide that you need more garden cards and get more garden cards or monument cards, or if you're trying to end the game early, get a couple more divinity cards and see how many smite cards you can get. After all 5 elements have been played on the board, then it moves on to the last phase, which is taking all the elements off the board, and the first player marker moves to the other person. So in a 2-player game, every round, one person will have 3 elements to play and the other person will have 2. So that means the first person or the first player will have the ability to play 3 times in one single round. Once that round is over, it moves on to the other person to be the first player, and then they will have the opportunity to play 3 elements and the other person will play 2. So saving some of your actions for that turn when you know you can play 3 elements can be a very worthwhile round for you. So that is a general overview of how you play Elements of Gods, which as a summary, you are mainly trying to manipulate the worshipers that are around or on the board to try to gain as much points as you can to play the cards, because the main point of manipulating all these worshipers is to play the cards that you have in your hand to gain points for gardens and to build monuments and to gain those extra divinity endgame scoring. And also to pay attention to those 3 cards that you have out on the table as endgame scoring mechanics. But now that I have explained how you play this game in a 2-player variant, I do want to touch on the solo play. In a solo play, you yourself will have your own hand of cards just like you would in a normal game, but you will also build the rival deck. And the rival deck is made up of monument, garden, and divinity cards that are put out in a specific order. You cannot mix up the order, and that is how the rival opponent will play against you. So as this is a solo play, you will have a solo play deck that you will draw a card from, and you will also draw a meeple from the bag. That meeple is the one that you cannot manipulate with the elements on that round. So the solo play card will give you an option of 3 elements to choose from that you can play, and the second one, which is on the bottom, will give you one option of an element that you have to play. So essentially, this game is a 5-round game, and it is very tough. You are going against the rival, which, as I said, only has 5 rounds, and you do want to still play out 5 divinity cards on your turn. If at any point you play your 5th divinity card, you will gain points based off of how many cards are left in the rival deck. And that's essentially how you play on a solo play variant of this game. But now that I've explained how you play, let's move on to final thoughts so I can give you my thoughts on this game. Okay, so final thoughts for Elements of the Gods. So this game was very reminiscent to me of 5 Tribes, and if you haven't played 5 Tribes, it's a game where you have these meeples and you're picking them up and you're dropping one off at a time on certain spaces, and you're trying to place the last meeple on a space where you actually want to be to collect those meeples. And this game kind of has some of those elements of where you're trying to, manipulate these meeples to gain you specific advantages, to gain specific meeples on a space, because that's going to give you points or give you gardens or monuments that you can play on that. And, when I first originally played 5 Tribes, it gave me the feels of Mancala, which I actually liked a lot. And if you don't know what Mancala is, that is a very base game where you're picking up marbles and dropping them off. And there's not a lot of rules to it, but it's a game that, really feels like you can just keep playing it. But anyways, this game here has those base feelings of 5 Tribes that I really like on that, basics of moving those meeples. But to me, I feel like this game almost is a great start of a game. I feel like it really feels like it's got a great base, but I feel like if you add in more expansions or something else, I feel like there might be something like missing, something like a catch, something that makes you come back. Because I played this in the 2-player, and for me that was very easy, you know, because we were going against each other. But then you go on the other spectrum of the solo play, and the solo play is like hard. You know, you only have 5 rounds to do what you're trying to do, and you're really trying to do on this time crunch of getting all your stuff out and getting your cards done before the rival wins the game. So very different spectrum on the solo and the 2-player game, where I feel like they're very opposite in terms of how tough the game actually is. If I were to play this game again, I would actually like to play it in a 4-player game, because I feel like that would add a lot more strategy to the game and a lot more depth to it, because I feel like with the 2-player, we were just kind of still able to do everything that we wanted to do on our round, because we were still able to manipulate enough meeples with the elements that we had to actually get what we wanted done. And that was cool, but at the same time, very easy. I think I need to play this game more to actually feel if this game, you know, makes it different in every round or different in every game. See if there's anything that I can add to the game to make it a little bit more meaty for me. But all in all, it was a fun game. I enjoyed it because of the different aspects that it had to it with the elements and moving the meeples and how you're building monuments. But again, I feel like there's something missing, that I feel like there needs to be more to it that would make me want to come back and say, I love this game. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed my review of this game. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down in the comments below. Also, as you know, December's coming up, and that is my 12 days of giveaways that's starting on December 1st. So make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that notification bell, because you will be notified once I place a video out, so you will be a part of that giveaway. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.